Welcome to Contours of Our Soul and Beyond. So, people often ask me, what comes first, the story or the words? And I never know how to answer, because for me, they arrive holding hands. I've never believed that fiction and poetry live in separate worlds. I think they share the same heartbeat. A novel asks, what happened? A poem asks, what did it feel like? So the magic happens when you allow both questions to exist on the same page. When I write fiction, I'm building lives. I'm creating people with histories, with fears, desires, and dreams. And I want the reader to believe they could walk past these characters on the street. So I want to make them real. But that's only half of it. I'm just as interested in what can't be seen. The silence after an argument, the ache of an unanswered question, and the way grief settles into the body without even announcing it, or announcing its arrival. These moments don't always belong to prose. Sometimes they ask for poetry. Poetry has always been the language of what refuses to be explained. It doesn't tell you where to stand. It simply opens a window and lets you look. That's why I've never seen poetry as something separate from storytelling. To me, poetry is the soul of a story, and the story is the body that carries the soul. One gives structure, the other gives breath. When those two meet, something extraordinary can happen. A scene becomes more than a sequence of events. A character becomes more than someone speaking, a dialogue. A page begins to feel lived, not just read. So when I was writing Contours of Our Soul, I found myself moving constantly between those two worlds. In some days, I was asking practical questions. What happens next? What choice would this character make? What consequence follows this decision? Other days, more of those questions mattered. Instead, I wanted to know, what color is her loneliness? If hope had a sound, what would she hear? How does healing move through a person who has forgotten how to trust themselves? Those aren't questions you answer with a plot. They're questions you answer with rhythm, with imagery, with poetry. They were moments when a poem became a doorway into a chapter, and moments when a character quietly unrevealed into a poem. Neither interrupted the other. They completed each other because life isn't lived in neat paragraphs. We don't experience heartbreak as a list of facts. We remember fragments, a glaze, a scent, a sentence. Someone said years ago that somehow still echoes today. Memory itself is poetic, and we all have that in us. Maybe that's why I write the way I do. I'm less interested in telling readers what happened. I'm interested in helping them remember what it feels like to be human, to love, to lose, to hope, to become. Contours of Our Soul became the place where those two parts of me finally stopped competing. The novel wanted to tell a story. The poet wanted to linger inside those emotions. Instead of asking one to step aside for the other, I invited them both to the table and I combined them. And somewhere between the plot, between the dialogue, between the silence, between the narrative and the verse, the book found its voice. I've come to believe that every writer has a native language, not English, not French, not Spanish, but a creative language, and this is mine. Some writers think in scenes, some think in dialogue, some think in images, some think in music. I think in feeling. Everything I write begins there. The emotion arrives first, the words simply follow. And maybe that's why I continue to write. Not just novels, not just poems, but works that I refuse to choose between the two. I do both. Because life isn't separate. It doesn't separate them. Our hearts don't separate them. So why should our stories? Perhaps the most beautiful stories are the ones that allow us to read with our minds and remember with our souls. So thank you for joining me today, and skål!